Howdy my totally tubular gamers, and we are back with another ranking video. Today's ranking video's topic is going to be on Godzilla. Now, Godzilla, I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Godzilla is at this point. He's a pretty big icon across the world, and arguably Japan's biggest icon as well, at least in media. And I can say that Godzilla, he's definitely one of my favorites. I love all the movies, I love Godzilla himself, and big monsters, definitely up my alley. So naturally, when there's something as popular as literally Godzilla, there's going to be a lot of games based off Godzilla. And you know, I've played a lot of these Godzilla games, and I thought, hey, why not rank all the Godzilla games? So here we are, we're going to try to rank just about every Godzilla game. Now, over the years, there's been dozens, and I mean dozens of Godzilla games. And frankly, a lot of them were never released in North America. And with that in mind, I can't include every single Godzilla video game ever made because I can't play every Godzilla game ever made because a lot of them are not in English. Some really awesome ones, like the trading card game or the tournament fighter or the one on Dreamcast. I can't play these games. They're not in English. There's really no way for me to play them. And so with that in mind, we're going to be sticking to North American releases only. The second caveat is we're going to be looking at console games because it seems over the years there's been a lot of really weird, like, PC releases for Godzilla, and I don't know what these games are. I don't even know if these are PC games. They're on, like, the MSX, and they're just very old, and we're just going to stick to the console North American Godzilla games. We're going to rank every single one of those. And so with that in mind, to celebrate the new Godzilla movie coming out where he's fighting my man Monkey, he's fighting King Kong, let's just get started with ranking every Godzilla game in North America on console. So what is, though, the worst Godzilla game? Well, and at the bottom of the list we have Godzilla on Game Boy, the handheld console. And yeah, Godzilla on Game Boy, this game is a piece of shit, honestly. This game is a waste of time. It is the definition of clickbait with a decent intro screen. However, once you get into the game, this looks nothing at all like Godzilla. It looks like the dragon from Bubble Bobble. You punch boulders, climb vines, and punch enemies with what seems to be a giant fist or boxing glove. This looks like something out of a Kirby game, not a Godzilla game. With pretty mediocre controls, even more bland level design, and just a really unappealing aesthetic as a whole. This game really should not be experienced by anybody and should just be blown away by Godzilla's atomic breath because this is just an insult to Godzilla as a whole. Next game, and the second worst Godzilla game we have is Godzilla 2 for the NES. Now, Godzilla 2 has nothing to do with Godzilla 1 and has very little to even do with Godzilla as a whole, as you don't play as Godzilla. In fact, you are fighting Godzilla. You play as the military. This is like a strategy RPG, it seems, where you try to like plan out movements to attack the monsters, and then it goes into a turn-based kind of strategy RPG where you take turns attacking each other, you know, a basic RPG. However, everything is dependent on a slot machine, meaning that you will pretty much never hit any of the enemies and will just get obliterated. This is, again, an insult to Godzilla as a whole. I don't know what anyone was thinking when they said, hey, you know, Godzilla, you know, you want to go around as Godzilla and blow stuff up? No, we're going to have you fight Godzilla as the military. Have you ever wanted to be the military in a Godzilla movie? No, that's what I thought. You didn't. Anyway, let's go on to the next game. The next game on our list is actually two games that I'm putting together as one entry. That is Godzilla the Series and Godzilla the Series Monster Wars, and both of these were released for the Game Boy Color. Both of them are not very good and are basically identical to each other. Both of them are based off of the animated series that came out in the late 90s, and both of them are, again, pretty much the same game. Both of them see Godzilla moving very slowly left to right, destroying everything in his path. There's no music in either of the games, so I guess it's just silent Godzilla, and the game fails to pose any challenge or be anything other than boring most of the time. Like, this is one of the most boring games I've ever played. Like, I was legit falling asleep just trying to even look at this game, and this goes for both of them. They both have incredibly dull backgrounds. Godzilla looks goofy. There's very few monsters, if almost any, in this game. I can count on one hand how many in both of these games combined. and the game fails to do anything interesting. It's a waste of time. It's really rare nowadays for some reason, and I think even the animated series was better than this, and I have my reservations about that. But you'd be better off watching that than playing this abomination. Either of them. The next game on our list is Godzilla Unleashed Double Smash. Now, Godzilla Unleashed, the home console version, that'll be on our list in a little bit. But the handheld console version, the DS version here, this is not a good game. This is not a good game in almost any aspect, and it's actually pretty similar to the last game we looked at, the Godzilla the Series games. It's pretty similar, as it is a left-to-right side-scrolling shooter where you just kind of shoot everything, and that's pretty much it. I mean, the game is pretty bland, it is pretty dull, it looks pretty bland. In fact, I would go on to say that this is maybe the worst looking DS game I think I've ever seen. Like, it's graphically very poor, it is very uninspired, I don't know why it has the same cover art as the real Godzilla Unleashed, and I can't really recommend this game to anyone, and I really have a hard time talking about it as I couldn't play this game for more than even an hour. I was like, this is bad. This is pretty bad. So let's just go on to the next game. The next game on our list is Super Godzilla for the Super Nintendo. Now, this is a really weird game. Like, this is maybe the weirdest Godzilla game of them all. You do play as Godzilla, but it is very odd. You just control him while he walks around this map. You see, he might look really cool up top, but you're looking at the bottom half of the screen as you're controlling him on this map, and you don't want him to run into buildings as that hurts him for some reason. And you just want him to get to the monster before the time runs out. This is very boring and not really interesting at all. And when you finally get into a fight with the monster, this is seemingly random as you just kind of almost take turns attacking each other, and I really don't understand this, and it doesn't make all that much sense. The game is not very good. I can say though that the presentation is actually quite good, and for the Super Nintendo, a lot of these sprites look great, and that's the game's saving grace. But not really. It's still not very good, but it's its saving grace for this list, as it's not the worst Godzilla game, but again, it's not very good. The next game on the list is the Godzilla NES game. I can't believe this game got this high on the list. We're almost at the midway point, but it just goes to show how bad those previous games were. Because this game isn't all that great either, but it's not a total piece of shit like the other games. You get to play as Godzilla or Mothra, and you move around on this board, and on each hexagon it's a side-scrolling level, and these aren't the worst thing in the world. I mean, they're not very good even by NES standards, but again, not the worst thing in the world. And then eventually, once you move to the other monsters on this hexagon board thing, you get to fight them, and it's kind of like a fighting game. I mean, it's also not very good, but at least it tried. It definitely tried, and I can give it that. This game is also subject to a creepypasta titled NES Godzilla Creepypasta, and it was an interesting read, and I can leave it at that. And there is actually a fan game being developed with a demo that was released for it, and yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that. But we have Godzilla NES, again, not an absolute piece of garbage that needs to be blown up by Godzilla or stepped on, but not very good. The next game on our list is sadly the Godzilla PS4 game. Now, Godzilla on PS4, there was a bit of hype behind this one, especially by me, but I really can't get behind this game, and I can confidently say that it's not a very good game. Sure, it's better than all those old other Godzilla games that we looked at, but it's not a very good game. With graphics that look barely above a Dreamcast game, and gameplay that is also incredibly dull, the game fails to really capture the Godzilla spirit. And sure, you do move pretty slow and attack pretty slow, and I guess that's in tune with Godzilla, and there is a pretty good variety and roster of monsters and characters to play as, but the actual gameplay itself is just not engaging in the slightest and is very repetitive and just sees the monster or Godzilla, whoever you play as, just destroying the generator pretty much the entire time. The boss fights are not very good. It tries to also be like a fighting game, but you'll frequently be stun locked into attacks, and I really just don't have all that much to say about it because I was pretty disappointed with what this game had. I think that with a big budget and a lot of time put into a big PS4 game, we could have had a really awesome Godzilla game, but unfortunately we have this game which really I think fails to capture Godzilla's highest of highs and really is just a boring mess. The next game on our list is Godzilla Domination, and this game has a unique aspect to it that all the other games have not had so far on this list. It's good. It's actually pretty good. Godzilla Domination plays just like King of the Monsters if you played that in arcades or on Neo Geo from SNK that came out in the 90s. Sure, this game is a lot more basic than those games, but this is on the Game Boy Advance as opposed to the arcades. It's a fun little fighting game. Sure, it doesn't have very much depth. In fact, it really doesn't have any depth at all, and it's just kind of a button masher, and the roster of characters is pretty lame, I'm not gonna lie, but it is a fun little handheld fighting game, I guess, and it could be a hell of a lot worse. I could say that. This list shows that it could be a hell of a lot worse. The game looks decent, it sounds alright, it's not too long, and you can play through the game as all the characters to try to get some unique battles and just endings, but again, it's a fun little fighting game. I don't really have all that much to say about it because there isn't all that much to it. It's just actually a fun little fighting game. And in the number 4 spot, we finally have a game that most people will probably recognize if they didn't recognize the PS4 one. That is Godzilla Unleashed. However, we are looking at the PS2 version of Godzilla Unleashed, which is actually different than the Wii version of Godzilla Unleashed. The game features the same convoluted story that makes little sense. However, something that is very different from the Wii version is that this game has half the amount of playable characters with a very honestly just weak roster compared to the Wii one, with the only new character being Batra, which is just a reskin of Mothra and plays exactly the same with the same combos. Speaking of combos and controls, it is much worse than any of the other Godzilla fighting games, honestly, as I think this is the worst of any of the 3D ones, and I would prefer the motion controls of the Wii compared to this. The game has a serious lack of variety that Godzilla Unleashed on the Wii had, and the graphics are also quite poor, even worse than the Wii version. Don't get me wrong, the game still has a few fun moments. I mean, it got this high on the list, but there is very little reason to even play this version of the game when the Wii version exists. Speaking of Godzilla Unleashed on the Wii, we have Godzilla Unleashed in the number 3 spot, and the Wii version, I might add. This is the third 3D fighting game developed by Pipeworks for Godzilla, and I think it's actually a pretty good game. I know some people are not the biggest fans of this game, but I remember having a lot of fun with it, and I still think it holds up pretty well today. Not as well as the next 2 entries, but it's still a good game. Godzilla Unleashed tries to build on the previous 2 3D fighting games and decides to just go completely all out with its roster, with easily the biggest roster in any Godzilla video game, with over 30 different monsters. Really, every Godzilla fan will like the roster of this game. That's its biggest strength by far. The game also has a bit of variety, as it's not just fighting that you'll go around doing. You'll get to go around smashing stuff and just doing other side objectives that are usually just smashing stuff. But when you aren't smashing stuff and you're actually fighting, it's a good time. Because this game, it still retains that fun factor from the previous 2 games. It's not the most in-depth or complex fighting game, and I'll be the first to admit that the fighting is nowhere near as good as the previous 2 games, but it's still a fun time. Using the Wii remote to attack and just do everything, it hasn't aged the best, and the motion controls are really finicky. It slows the game down in terms of pacing and makes combos a hell of a lot harder than they should be, but I mean, it could be worse. It gets the job done, and that's the important part. I will say that when you're fighting more than one other monster, it can be just kind of a mess, and the controls can just be awkward as hell, but again, it could be worse. It could be the previous game, and the graphics were fine. The story was really just kind of a mess, honestly, but I will say that something this game has is a fantastic soundtrack. If you have not listened to the soundtrack for Godzilla Unleashed on Wii, great soundtrack. And this is the best Godzilla Unleashed game. I can say that. And in number 2, we have a game that I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for, and that is Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee for the GameCube and Xbox. And hey, I got that nostalgia too. I had a lot of fun memories with this game as a kid, especially in the multiplayer. This was the first 3D fighting game developed by Pipeworks for Godzilla, and it's a fun time, I can definitely say that. It honestly was exactly what we were looking for in a Godzilla game, where you can just pick a bunch of monsters and just beat the shit out of each other. You just beat the crap out of each other. You destroy cities, you throw buildings, you shoot lasers, you throw each other, you throw some punches, lots of throwing here. And you know what? It's still really fun, even to this day. And it's an actually pretty competent 3D fighter. I mean, I don't know if you're going to be seeing this game at EVO anytime soon or something like that, but it is still a fun little game. And hey, if Shrek Super Slam can get to EVO, I think this game can too. So let's try to get this game to EVO. Godzilla Destroy All Monsters for EVO. Anyway, it was a really fun time. The roster, while not the best, I will say, it is missing a number of key monsters. It was the first 3D fighting game, and I think that the combat was arguably the best of the series, as it was fast, the combos were quick, easy to execute, and you could just have a blast with this game. There were other things to do as well than just fight each other. You could just go around destroying stuff even as well. There was a couple mini games on that, and those were a fun time as well. If you somehow haven't played this game, I recommend, once it's safe of course, get with some friends, play this game on probably the GameCube, and you'll have a good time. I assure you it'll be a good time, especially if you're a fan of Godzilla. But it's, in my opinion, not the best Godzilla game. It's very, very close, and it could very easily be number one. But in my opinion, number one is Godzilla Save the Earth for the PS2 and the Xbox. I think Godzilla Save the Earth is the best Godzilla game of them all, and a pretty fun 3D fighter as well. The game really just builds on top of the previous Godzilla fighting game, as this game addresses my biggest issue with Destroy All Monsters, as it has a ton of characters. It has a bunch of Godzilla classics in it. It doesn't have as much as Unleashed, of course, but it has the necessary monsters here, and it's a great time. This game really builds on Destroy All Monsters Melee with more combos, more environments, more things to throw, more punches to throw. There's more modes. There was even online play back when the Xbox went online. There's more mini games to do here. There's more variety. This is just the peak Godzilla game in my opinion. And I don't think Godzilla games have really ever gotten better since. I think the combat is superb. The fighting mechanics are pretty good. And of course I'm not the best judge for a fighting game, but this is a good time. And also, Godzilla Save the Earth for EVO. Let's do it. If we can get Def Jam Fight for New York at EVO, we can get Godzilla at EVO. We gotta get him there, because he needs our help. No, but seriously, if you had to play one Godzilla game from this list, I would recommend Godzilla Save the Earth, as I think it is the best time, it is a solid 3D fighting game, and I think all fans of Godzilla will absolutely love this game. They'll not only like it for its fun gameplay that is also engaging and somewhat deep in many aspects, but its great character roster, its attention to lore, and just paying tribute to the classics. Like, this just gets the Godzilla feeling. Like, it's campy like the old Godzillas, it's not too slow, but it's not too fast either, just like the old Godzilla movies, and there's a bunch of throwbacks to previous Godzilla movies. So while you're getting ready to watch Godzilla vs. King Kong on HBO Max at home, because you're not going to a movie theater because you're safe, why not try Godzilla Save the Earth? Or hell, why not try Unleashed? Why not try Destroy All Monsters Melee? Try one of these Godzilla games. Let me know about it. Tell me what your favorite Godzilla game is in the comments. Now, I know I didn't look at every single Godzilla game. I didn't look at the Japanese Godzilla games. If I looked at those, I would be here twice as long. I didn't look at any of those weird PC games either. And yeah, I know I didn't look at every single Godzilla game made on planet Earth, but I looked at all the North American ones that I felt were worth looking at. And I had a fun time, because a majority of these games, even the shit ones, they're still kind of fun. Because I love Godzilla, it's pretty hard to not like Godzilla. Either way, I hope you guys have a wonderful, and gals, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful Christmas, New Year, Memorial Day, President's Day, Easter, Hanukkah, whatever the hell you celebrate. Either way, have a good one. See ya.